Welcome in to an emergency edition of the DNVR Avalanche podcast cast. Even it's so off that I was not expecting this, not ready to go, but the trade has happened. I don't think anyone should be too surprised by the target that we ended up with. Oh, is my camera frozen? I love that. That's great. Everybody loves that. Let's see if I can fix that. No, that didn't fix anything. Anyway, while I fix my camera, Mackenzie Blackwood is officially a Colorado Avalanche player. Georgiev, Kovalenko, a second-round pick in 2026, and a fifth-round pick going the other way. The Avs also get Giovanni Smith and a fifth-round pick in 2027 on the flip side. Initial impressions of a trade for a goaltender.
Eric? What are your initial impressions, buddy? You're so excited. I can see it.
Sorry, I got a bad jacket. It's an old jacket. I was just running an errand, so that's all good. Sorry. Initial impressions, I'm pumped. I'm stoked. We'll dive into it a lot more there, but for me, it had to happen. It was a necessity. Talked about it at length this year about the fact that your core is too good to have below average goaltending. This is nothing to do towards the person or the athlete. For me, he was a below average goaltender in the National Hockey League. And I said this summer, whoever's going to start the first game of the season will not be the guy that's going to finish the year. And you just know, right, in the circle of hockey and that they were looking for a goalie, and it's not the last week that they've been looking for a goalie. It's been a while, and for all the reasons, and I'm stoked. I'm happy. I'm very excited, and I do believe that this is a great coup by the Avalanche and CMAC.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd call it a coup, but I do think it's a direct improvement by not just a little bit. And however you feel about Mackenzie Blackwood, Eric put it there nicely. Alexander Georgiev was arguably a bottom three goalie in the NHL this year, and Mackenzie Blackwood is not that. So just by definition, the Avs got better at the position.
Yeah, I don't know how you can look at the fact that the Avs trade away Alexander Georgiev in a deal where they don't give up a ton. I know that we like Nikolai Kovalenko, and obviously a second-round pick is always going to be a valuable trade piece. But we're talking about who's going to make a bigger impact in Colorado's playoff run this year. Is it going to be Nikolai Kovalenko or a starting goaltender? Were they comfortable? Was anybody comfortable with the Avs rolling in with a tandem of Georgiev and Scott Wedgwood in the postseason? I know I absolutely was not comfortable with that. So it felt like there had to be another shoe to drop here. And in 11 days, I think it's 11 days, the Avs go from Alexander Georgiev and Justus Annunen to Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood. And while everybody can make all the wood jokes, genuinely, that feels like a significant upgrade in your tandem, not just from Georgiev to Blackwood, but your tandem has gotten so much better. And yeah, you lose two young players that you've spent years developing in Nikolai Kovalenko and Justus Annunen. You give up a second round pick, but that's it. That's it.
If we're getting into the trade value conversation, I do think it is important to note that second is in 2026. So it's not this upcoming year's one. I saw some people on Twitter talking about it. They still have this year's second round pick. I'm not saying they're going to use it to pick, but they still have that second round pick to throw around for a forward or a defenseman or whatever you feel like they need at the trade deadline.
we're not all gonna sit here and lie to ourselves, right? That they're gonna make that pick.
The Avs don't
They're not
use
making that
second
pick.
round pick ever.
That second round pick's not getting used by the Avs. That is a trade deadline piece where they'll use it to get another defenseman, another forward, whatever it'll end up being. But they are not about.
No, they're not going to pick it.
Yeah, and what I like is that in just chatting with a couple of people after this deal came down is that there's been a little bit of conversation about, oh, well, that's a second round pick that we can no longer use to get like a deadline rental. And I would just say, great. Because if this goes the way the Avs hope it does, Mackenzie Blackwood isn't a rental. He's your guy. He turned 28 today. If this goes well, he gets somewhere in a 3 to 5 year deal, and he's your goalie for the next handful of years. And given the player that he has been in San Jose, of all places, San Jose, this season, there's plenty of hope that he can be a formidable presence in net for you.
Yeah, obviously anything is possible. We don't have crystal balls. We can't see the future. We don't know what this plays out as in Colorado, but Blackwood does not have to come here and be the best goalie in the league. Blackwood has to come here and just be good enough. And if he's that, the Avs are going to win a whole lot of games with him in net. So
I just want to jump in, and I'm going to go back to my words earlier. I said a coup. For me, it's a coup. Whenever you can pull a deal like this ahead of the deadline, way ahead, don't kid yourself. The Avalanche were not the only team looking for a goaltender. You and I and the three of us here on this pod know that there's other teams that are good contenders that are looking for their goalie because their goalie is not good enough. We're not here to name teams, but it's very simple to see. Edmonton. There you go. I'll say it. At the end of the day, you can save all the second round picks that you want. I come from a different school. I come from the school that you get something, you want something, you go get it because you have the core players to all of a sudden make some damage in the playoffs. But I'll tell you one thing. You save all those second round picks for the deadline, and next thing you know, if you don't have a goalie, you can make 82 trades for a second. We're using your seconds for some players. If you don't have a goalie, you're not going anywhere. So the Avalanche were in that mode of they weren't going anywhere with that goaltending. It just wasn't going to happen. You can you can add anything you want. So for me, the price of a second round pick, and no offense to Andrei Kovalenko, and I'm going to be very rude here, and I was one of those guys, and even below him, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Once he's played 500 games, we can compare. But I'll tell you one thing: there's Andrei Kovalenko's everywhere around the NHL. There's nothing special there. I'm not being rude. He's a nice little guy and little project that the Avs had, and at the end of the day, you can replace Andrei Kovalenko. Sorry, not Andre, but Nikolai. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. But it's just like back then when when Patrick Roy trade happened, people were talking about Andre Kovalenko, and it's so ironic that the two goalies that were acquired to go win cups were from Kovalenko's. But at the end of the day, there's no offense to Nikolai Kovalenko. You can find guys like that everywhere. So for me, to throw that in there, finding a second round pick, I will do that all day long. Every day of the week, twice on Sunday. That's why I call it a coup. It's a no brainer. And the more you waited and the more you were waiting after January, February, it was going to cost more. Blackwood was going to cost a first round pick. I don't care what people say. That's what happens when the prices are driven up right before the deadline and you're desperate because you realize. Actually, the Avalanche, I've realized a long time ago that their goaltending was not good enough. It's not just the DNVR Avalanche pod that has realized that a long time ago. The Avalanche have known that for a long time. So I love the fact that they addressed it. I'm very excited. I'm pumped. And I'm pumped because this has nothing to do with the person. But I was tired of talking about Alexander Georgiev and he has a bad game and then he has a decent game where the puck hits him and that's all we talk about and oh my god, he's back, and guys, he's just a below average goaltender. Move on. and you had someone that was, wanting to take him. They don't want him, to be honest with you. They wanted the asset. It's not like they wanted the player; they wanted the asset. The second round pick, and Kovalenko, I'm sure is going to be a nice fit, perfect team for Nikolai Kovalenko. Perfect fit, young players there, and again, we all know he's not 18, and he's going to be just fine there. And in the net, they can manage to have Georgiev. They're going to finish 30th anyway. It doesn't matter, and they'll decide if they want to sign him or not and move on from him. And but now the Avalanche, no one, no one can say that they got worse. In the net, obviously, the last 10 days, it's a complete 180 turnaround. And if I'm a team in the West, I'm not happy today. I'm being honest. I'm not happy today because you're like, okay, wow, everyone knows. You talk to anybody, guys. Come on, we go to morning skate everywhere around the league. Every morning skate, we're there. We're talking to people around the league. Everyone brings it up. The Avalanche are sick. The Avalanche have a core to go and win. We talked about it just like Avalanche 1.0, 96 to 01. They had two cups in there. We always talked about the Avalanche 2.0 from 22 to whatever it is, 27, 28. Multiple cup runs in there in need of a goalie. You couldn't do that with what they had in net. Impossible to do.
The comment on chat there, and someone mentioned it, the Avs did retain a little bit of salary on Georgiev. I don't think this is an overpay at all. Remove all the accessory pieces. Essentially what happened is the Avs get rid of Georgiev's salary. They bring in Mackenzie Blackwood, and it cost them a second-round pick and Nikolai Kovalenko. Once you move Giovanni Smith down to the minors, the Avs will have saved a little over $1.2 million in cap space on top of this deal. And the retention for Georgiev is essentially irrelevant because his contract is up at the end of the season. So
Yeah,
it's just essentially like you're paying Mackenzie Blackwood an extra $500K, basically. The Avs put together a trade where they didn't give up a first-round pick, and they really only lost a bottom six forward directly from their roster. For a goaltender that should be an immediate improvement, that's a pretty decent deal.
You're talking about going from the worst starting goaltender in the NHL this season and one of the 6 worst goalies since the start of last season in Alexander Georgiev, and for the price of Nikolai Kovalenko, who, look, we all like him again, but Eric's not wrong. Yep. There's a lot of Nikolai Kovalenkos around the league, decent bottom 6 guys who are fine. And frankly, Nikolai Kovalenko had been outplayed by Ivan this year. And Ivan's versatility and being able to play center, although not particularly well at this point. Yeah. But that versatility, you're talking about the price of this is for a starting goaltender. Like, I feel like I'm in crazy town right now. It's a starting goaltender. Even if you don't love Mackenzie Blackwood and you don't buy that the player that he has been this year is who he's going to be moving forward, fair enough. But he has been right around league average before this season. He was supposed to be the man in New Jersey and struggled with confidence and injuries and like the weight of the entire Devils organization on his shoulders. Eric and I were talking about Mackenzie Blackwood like 2 weeks ago and how he looks like a completely different player now just because he's getting starts. He's just getting to play hockey. Now, he comes to Colorado, that pressure's back. There's no more, oh, cool, I'll just play, and if we win, great, and if we lose, also great. There's all the pressure in the world in Colorado now, but it's so different because he's going to be behind a really, really good team and a team that is energized. And I think we're going to see a really good team that's not going to be selling out so much defensively to try and stop any shot whatsoever from getting to Alexander Georgiev because they're afraid all of them will go in.
Yeah. And you're bang on. And when you're 28 years old, like he is today, right? You're just coming into your own as a goaltender. And he's learned. Just listen to Wedgwood last week talking about his journey, and it's a total different journey than Blackwood in a sense that for me, Blackwood's a number 1, Wedgwood's a number 2. Now you have a solid tandem, but you know what? He's going to come into his own. It's Christmas come early, and I'll tell you that. We talked about Middlestat last year, like coming in here and being behind Nathan McKinnon, and Christmas is like, oh my God, this is a Christmas gift, Well, I'll tell you one thing. If you're Blackwood, he is ecstatic. And the second point I want to make, and again, it's no offense to Nikolai Kovalenko. We cover the Avs. We are a fan of the Avs. People on chat are a fan of the Avs. I get that. So we're always fans of our players, especially guys that you watch for a couple years and you stay up late at night and watching KHL games to see what he is and can he help out. But honestly, guys, I'm just being honest. Like, guys like that around the league are everywhere, and Nikolai Kovalenko will not make you win the Stanley Cup. I'm just being honest with you. He will not make you win the Stanley Cup. Goaltending will. It will. Bad goaltending will sink you. It will. So it's not even would you rather have that or give up a first round pick? So I think for me, it's such a no-brainer that it's a second in Kovalenko because it's so easy. And then on top of it, somebody in chat asked me, what do the players think? Here's what I'm going to tell you. You're all part of a brotherhood, and you all like one another. And I'm not saying this guy was I'm not saying this guy was a bad guy. I don't know him, but you can tell who are glue guys. He was not a glue guy. He's a guy that probably, kept to himself, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm saying. But I'll tell you one thing: when you aspire to win the cup, and the Avalanche want to win the cup as players, and it's cup or bust. And when you make a trade like that today, trust me, if the guys were not all together right now, whatever it is, and at the hotel and where are they, Pittsburgh. I'll tell you one thing: they're all texting one another. They're all going to one in each other's room and say, "Holy schneискes! Well, holy schneискes! We just got way better." And then, if you think that the bench was not sinking or being demoralized many games this year because of the bad goaltending, you're lying to yourself. It's human nature. As a team, they would look at each other. They're not bad people. That doesn't mean they're bad players. They're bad teammates. It just deflates. Bad goaltending deflates you. And the Avalanche had bad goaltending this year. So yeah, the guys, they're pumped. I can tell you that right now. They are absolutely pumped. And this has nothing to do with the person or the feelings that they have as a friend to Georgiev or whatever it is. It's a business. The Avalanche got better today. End of story. And the guys are stoked about it.
The Kovalenko conversation is very simple to me. And Evan is probably Kovalenko's number one fan. I might be his number two fan. Look, 2 years from now, Kovalenko might be a legitimate middle six player that is very, very good. The Avs don't have 2 years to wait around. They're trying to win a cup right now. And the version of Nikolai Kovalenko they've gotten is fine. I think he pitches in decently offensively, but he's a bottom six player who has suspect defense at the NHL level at best. He doesn't penalty kill for you. He doesn't play power play for you. That's a pretty darn minor piece on your roster today. What it might be in the future, if you're upset about losing that, fair enough. But the Avs are in the middle of their cup window. They're not trying to win 2 years from now. They're trying to win right now. And they directly made the maybe most important position on the ice better today with this trade. So you can't just give away nothing and expect to get better as a hockey team. To be honest with you, I think it's a pretty darn good price the Avs gave up for Mackenzie Blackwood.
Do you remember what the price was to get Alexander Georgiev?
It's like a second, 2 seconds and a fifth or something.
It was, I think it was 2/3 and a fifth. Like, would you rather have paid? Like, this is just a little bit more in a second.
Yeah,
and it is Nikolai Kovalenko, a ready-made, like, NHL ready guy for you on a cheap contract, blah, 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 blah. But I just don't. It's fine. Jonathan Drouin comes back from injury, and Ivan stays in the lineup. And as much as I hate to admit this, Yoel Kiviranta has just significantly outplayed all those guys this year. And
somehow keeps picking up points. Yeah,
you have to keep him. You have to keep him in your lineup. And Nikolai Kovalenko's defensive responsibility was bad.
Suspect at best, yeah.
Yeah, and when you
Well,
compare him to the other guy, Ivan is the other guy that you're probably looking at competing for a roster spot. Ivan is really solid and sound and reliable defensively and just doesn't make a lot of the same kinds of mistakes that we've seen Kovalenko making. Therefore, he's going to be more reliable and more trusted because offense just isn't something that the Avalanche are dying for out of their forward core right now. And when Kovalenko, look at the difference in your second line. Nikolai Kovalenko playing alongside Casey Middlestat and Val Nichushkin. Ross Colton shows up, 2 games, that line kicks ass. Like, it's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. There's just a completely different level when you see the guys that are playing in the roles that they should be and fitting into your roster the way that they should. You're talking about giving up maybe, let's say, your 9th or 10th best forward and a future 2026 second round pick for a starting goaltender. A starting goaltender. This isn't like a 1A, 1B. This should be your guy. And if it goes well, he's your guy for the next 3 to 5 years after this as well.
When my line dropped earlier, I'm not sure if you said it, but pardon me if you did. Here's what I'll say also about Andrei Nikolai Kovalenko. I get all confused right now. Whatever his name is, first name Andrei was his dad. Nikolai Kovalenko. I'll say this, and this is just the player and having worked with the team before, talking and dealing with coaches, and some of my best friends in life are NHL coaches. So I know the pressure they're under. I know that what they feel every day, so different than management, so different than players. So trust me, I am not putting a dagger at Bednar here. But I can tell you one thing. He was not in love with Nikolai Kovalenko. And that's why I said, AJ, I'm sorry if you talked about it when my line dropped or not, but you and I agree with that a little bit, that Bednar not in love with him. But that's okay. You can't be in love. And if it came down, and again, this is just speculations. Okay? I haven't been there. If C-Mac came down and they were in the room and they said, they'll take Ivan or Kovalenko. I am telling you right now, Bednar said, yeah, you give them Kovalenko. So I'm just telling you right now what all those things happen. And quite frankly, Ivan in the Avalanche lineup, not a guy in the summer that we had slotted in there. Quite frankly, it outplayed Kovalenko to be in the lineup according to Bednar's needs. I'm
Ivan
not
Ivans
saying
outplayed most of the Avs bottom 6, if we're being
Yeah,
honest about it.
no, exactly. That's why I'm using him. And Kovalenko's the one that left, right? So, that's the way I see it. That's the way I look at it. And then, again, I'm sticking to that one.
Yeah, this is not conceptually a trade that should shock everyone. We've been talking about it all year, like Eric said. I think we're all happy to be done talking about it. We get to see something different and see how the result comes through for Blackwood. We do have the stat comparison just to show you how ridiculous, whether you believe in Blackwood or not, the upgrade of players this season. The Avs go from a guy with a 338 goals against an 874 save percentage to a guy with a 3 flat and a 910 save percentage. And it's important to keep in mind, as much as people have problems with the Avs giving up high danger chances this year, their defense is better than the San Jose Sharks defense. And Blackwood has still managed to put up those numbers behind San Jose.
Yeah,
Love it.
I think that the whole, I mean, you look at the 910 save percentage. To be honest, I'm not even expecting that here. But when we do,
the number starts with a 9, buddy, we're good.
Straight up. Even look, if it's an 899, I'm not fighting anybody. But when we talk about the high danger chances, we were talking about this between us the other day, just comparing what Colorado's defense looked like with Georgiev on the ice versus without. And I was starting to look into the data a little bit more, and it was starting to become pretty clear that it wasn't just the defense that was causing a problem for Georgiev. It was Georgiev, because he was giving up a ton of rebounds, and those rebounds are kicking out everywhere. They're going all over the place. And the defenses were having a hard time corralling them because they're going all over. They're unpredictable. It's vulcanized rubber that's an odd shape, hitting all kinds of stuff, going different directions. And that lack of consistency with how Georgiev was stopping pucks was creating extra problems for himself, for the defense, for everybody. I'm not in any way pinning Colorado's defensive shortcomings this season on Alexander Georgiev. Come on, let's be real. That's not what I'm saying. But he did not help himself.
Yep.
And that is something that I am curious to see how that will change. We see it with Scott Wedgwood. I was trying to put together a little bit of a clip of it last night. Wedgwood, very calm in net, just puck hits him, stays where it is. The ones that were kicked out were the big rebounds that he gave up last night were shots that you would expect to reasonably be ones that create rebounds.
Yep.
But with Blackwood, I want to see how that changes. Also, I mean, it's not everything, but you go from a goaltender who's 6'1" to a goaltender who's 6'4". Mackenzie Blackwood has the size that teams want as an NHL starter. I feel encouraged on this day about what could be the future for this team.
It's a move that had to be made.
I'll speak on behalf of Rudo, because Rudo and I have had that conversation about Blackwood over the season. And again, he did it again 2 nights ago with 49, 50 saves. Lost 3-1, got 53 shots, whatever it was. He's a volume goalie, and I'm using Rudo's comment, right? Volume, whatever. Like, he likes games where he's busy. It's not going to happen with the Avalanche. We all know that. The Avalanche usually are, 25 and under? Sometimes in the teens. It's a different type of game. And hopefully he can adjust to that. And obviously the Avalanche made that deal knowing and thinking that he will adjust to that. I think he will adjust to that as well. I think, like I said before, and I'll say it again, not that hard to play goalie for the Avalanche because you're not that busy. You just got to make the saves you're supposed to make and then some. And if you do that, you'll get a Stanley Cup ring on your finger. And I think as a player, that's what you want. You want to have the chance to do that. You want to have the chance, like Scott Wedgwood said last week. Oh my God, it's a dream come true to be part of this team, because you look and you see the McKinnon, Rantanen, Makars of the world. Boy, oh boy, you just want to give it all you got and to make sure that you do your job and the rest will take care of itself.
Yep. The Avs team is better than they were yesterday. I think that's a good way to put it. We do have a bunch of super chats to hit here, though, so let's get to those. Miss Truly for $5 saying, now we will rotate our wood like we used to rotate our Johnsons. Let's effing go. Yeah.
Sick.
They got to collect them all, though. They got a couple more wood to go pick up.
Got to get Kiefer Sherwood back.
Yeah, there you go. $5 from Ryan, who says, seeing AJ is like seeing the cool uncle that only sometimes shows up for family gatherings. Heart.
I'll take it.
$5 from Pin King, who says, will both of the Woods give you wood at the goalie position this season finally?
Keep posting shutouts, sure.
I'll take a half chub at this point. $5 from the Walrus, who says, whoa, change your underpants. We've got new farts to trust. Hashtag trusting farts.
My guy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe these ones are more farts and less sharts. Who knows?
Eric is such a dad. It's so funny.
$7 from Drew, who says, finally, CMAC took advantage of Greer's questionable GM decisions. Could have got a lot more in a bidding war later in the year. It just hit the breaking point, right? The Avs continually were not getting the performances in goal that they needed to, and they had to make a decision. I'm glad they got it done now. We've talked about it a lot. Carolina needs a goalie. Edmonton needs a goalie. The Avs understand the Kemper situation. They understood how much they had to pay because they waited as long as they did. So something got the turtle pace Avs moving marginally faster on this one.
Yeah,
and then we have five. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
$5 from John. Who's more relieved, Kale or Rudo, because he doesn't have to answer goalie questions anymore? I mean, I hope you're right. There's a non-zero chance that Blackwood posts a 500 in his first game, and then I'm in shambles, but we'll see. Anyway,
I don't like this. We haven't talked about Giovanni Smith at all, and that's just because he's an AHL guy. He should be an Eagle. I don't think he's a real contender to help the Avalanche roster out. And if he does, then this trade gets quite a bit better. But as is, I just don't think it's a big deal.
As Eric always says, the guy coming back helps balance the contracts. Maybe if the Sharks had him up in the NHL at times this year, so it helps balance the money on their side a little bit. For the Avs, that's buried money. Like I said, they free up a little over $1.2 million in cap space. When you include Miles Wood's LTIR space, they have about $3.5 million right now, which I think they need a little bit more if Landy were to come back to make him fully fit. But if Landy doesn't come back, then they have $3.5 million to play with, essentially, depending on what Miles Wood's timeline looks like.
Yeah, right now they have, after this deal, they have $3.8 million in cap space, and that does not include Giovanni Smith going down to the AHL. And I believe he just cleared waivers.
Yeah. So it's like 4, almost 5, really. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just a shade under $5 million in cap space right now that they can use.
So that's not only have they solved their goalie position in a world where Miles Wood doesn't come back until the playoffs, they have the cap space they need to do what they want at the trade deadline, whatever that is, ranging from Landeskog coming back to going out and getting whoever.
Love it.
Yep. I mean,
good stuff.
They're the biggest. Do you think that if Edmonton had made this deal, say they would have given up a second round pick, a 2026 second round pick, and Vasily Podkolzin for this, and given away and given up Stuart Skinner for it, would we be sitting here going, "Oh my God, what a tremendous overpay by Edmonton"? No, we'd be going, "Oh, that's their biggest weakness. That is no longer a weakness."
You'd be saying, "I'd have done that."
Yeah, exactly. And instead, the Avs, we haven't mentioned this. This is the last thing I'll say, and then we can get out of here. But the Avs making this move now, 30 games into the season, means that they have the standard 20 games for a goaltender to adjust, and then a little bit of extra runway, instead of doing this at the deadline where they've got 18 games to figure it all out in the highest pressure environment imaginable. So getting the leap on this is significantly better than had they waited. So I'm glad that they did it. They remade their entire goaltending position in, I think it's 11 days, and
less than 2 weeks. Yeah.
That is, I mean, all of that is good work.
I love it.
Yep. It's solid. The last time they traded for a goalie in December, things worked out pretty well that year. Of course.
Yep.
Blackwood's not that guy. Yeah, but
still.
We saw last year what the 95-96 Avs would have looked like without Patrick Waugh. So, and we were on our way to that fate once again, and now we don't have to do that. But poor Mackenzie Blackwood, we have to stop comparing him to Patrick Waugh.
Yeah,
it's so unfair.
Goalie comparisons in this city are very unfair, unfortunately. Yeah. Look, the guy they had, be better than that guy. You'll be successful here. We are going to wrap up this emergency pod. We appreciate the ridiculous amount of you tuning in for this. Go read AJ's stuff from the game last night. I have my review coming out later today. Go check out all of our stuff and enjoy the DNVR.com. We appreciate y'all. We'll be back tomorrow for another Avs game. Bye-bye.
Let's go.
We all silly like the mayor.